I'm just the powerless king.
Hello, gentlemen.
Welcome.
Go. Thank you. You're the powerless king?
I'm the powerless king. All the power's over there in the purple jacket.
Once the filings are in, April, I think it's 8th.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Leawood Governing Body regular meeting on March the 4th, 2024. I'll ask that the clerk call the roll, please.
Mayor Elkins is present and presiding. Councilmember Phila,
Here.
Councilmember Larson,
Here.
Councilmember Sippel,
Here.
Councilmember Kane,
Here.
Councilmember Sunkel,
Here.
Councilmember Guyad,
Here.
Councilmember Harrison,
Here.
Councilmember Castor.
Here.
All right, I find that a quorum is present, and we can move on to the business of the evening. With this, I would ask that those that can, please rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may take your seats. Does staff have any amendments or corrections to the agenda?
No, Mayor.
If not, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Larson. Thank you, Councilman Sippel. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the agenda as it was presented to us, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the agenda is approved. Takes us to citizen comments, and there are no citizens that signed in this evening, although I would recognize a number of Rockhurst students who are joining this this evening. Welcome, and we hope you find this, if not interesting, at least a little bit informative. There are no proclamations this evening, and there are no presentations and recognitions, which takes us to special business. We're pleased to welcome the CEO of the Leawood Chamber of Commerce, Stephanie Meyer, this evening, who's going to bring us up to date on recent developments at the Chamber. Ms. Meyer, if you could state your name and your business address, we would be grateful. Welcome.
Absolutely. Good evening. So Stephanie Meyer with the Leawood Chamber, 13451 Briar Street here in Leawood, Kansas. So excited to be here with you all for my second official update to the council. So somehow it's been almost a year and a half since I've been on board. So it has been wonderful in large measure thanks to all of you. So I appreciate that. Want to just walk you through some things that have been going on. Lots. It's been a very, very busy 18 months, I think, that I've been there. So you have in your packet kind of the overall update, but just want to walk through that and feel free to, of course, jump in with any questions or comments you might have there. So chamber staff, as you know, fully built out now. We brought Melissa Cole as membership director on at the end of March last year, and she's been a fantastic addition to the team. I'll get into membership numbers in a bit, but I think you've all met her and seen her at events, and so she's been a great addition. I will say Alan McGrew, who is our VP of Operations, is going to be retiring this year, so good for him. But we are in the process of kind of taking a look at what we're going to do with that financial piece, and are we going to outsource it or fill the position, or what's happening there. So we'll see some change likely at the end of the year with that. But he actually helped with this report as well, so he does a lot and will definitely be missed. And a big part of what he does, you'll see at the bottom there, the overall revenue and expenses on that first page. So still operating, I think, in a very fiscally responsible manner, still operating with a little bit of a profit margin. So that's always good to reinvest in all of our programs and just showing healthy growth in our chamber. And you'll see here, as always, membership dues continue to be the largest funder of the organization overall, followed by our 3 special events. So I'll have more on that, but happy to take any questions. You have, of course, our chamber board, as always, a few changes. Of course, every year the chair rotates, and this year we are excited to have Jacqueline Schrum, who runs Town Center Plaza and Town Center Crossing, as our chamber president. So that has been a great addition, and she has a really fantastic perspective, particularly on the economic development piece of it. So you'll be seeing her around and hopefully having more conversations with her as well. In terms of membership, very excited to say that we have 475 members now. So it's been an incredible increase. So last year in 2023, we saw 97 new members to the chamber. So a record year of growth for the chamber, which was really fantastic and fun. And we are off to another strong start this year with 22, as of this morning, 22 new members in 2024. So continues to grow. We're excited about that. We have a retention rate of, it was 84% last week when I made this. It's 85 now that we've updated for March numbers. So definitely staying strong and moving in the right direction there. And you can see Again, we talk about a lot. The majority of our members are kind of on the smaller size, so you'll see the vast majority, about 50% of our membership are in that kind of 1 to 9 employee range. So small businesses certainly has been a focus and will continue to be a focus in all we do for the chamber. We actually, last year, one of the programs that we've started, we're hoping to grow this year, is kind of a small business series. So looking for opportunities for them to kind of speed network with each other, get some professional development, just lots of, kind of runs the gamut of what we're hearing from them that they want in resources from the chamber. Yeah.
Can I just ask, are we supposed to be seeing her presentation?
There's no, it's just you should have it in your packet.
Oh, I know,
Yeah.
just in case it's Rockhurst.
Oh, sure. Sorry, guys. No, you're fine. Yeah, and so you'll see again our sponsors for the year, the 2024 sponsors you have listed in your packet. So we are very appreciative to those folks. We do have a new presidential level sponsor this year, Musselman and Hall Contractors. So they've been a great addition to the chamber there, and hopefully you will see those folks at events as well. In terms of programming and events, another record year, so excited about that. We had 91 chamber events last year, so we were all very sleepy by the end, but it was a great year. So a little bit of something for everyone, so large scale events, small networking events, just all sorts of activities outside of our 3 large special events there. So 81% of our membership attended at least one of those events. So I think it really speaks well to our chamber being one where people want to get in and get involved and attend and be a part aside from just the membership dues. So we're thrilled about that number. It also included a record number of ribbon cuttings last year, so we had 19. So I told Melissa we need at least 20 this year. We've got to beat it by 1 if we can. But very busy for ribbon cuttings as well. You'll see there, again, our 3 special events of the year. We have our golf tournament, the At the Tee, that is on July 17th. It's at Iron Horse. I will tell you, I know some of you have already signed up, so thank you for that. I think we have 10 golf spots left, so it does sell out very, very quickly. So if you want to golf, I'll put in my plug. We do have sponsorships available, so that's, but golf is running out there. And then Taste of Leawood, I want to point out so we've moved it back to September. So last year we partnered with you all for the 75th, which was great, and had it on a Friday in October to help with that. We're going to move it back a few weeks to September. Hopefully it won't be quite as chilly, and looking at a Saturday night again. But most importantly, we're going to be partnering with Park Place this year. So the event is going to move from Town Center into the Park Place space. So we've been talking to them for a while, and they really want to do activities like this to sort of increase the foot traffic that's happening into Park Place. So we think this will be a great partnership and kind of spice up the event a little bit and give it a little bit of a different flavor. So we're definitely excited about that. And then our last event is our annual celebration, so the annual meeting. We switched it to kind of more of a happy hour format last year. So we're trying, it is in December, so trying to get it on everyone's calendars early before the holiday social time. So it will be Thursday, December 5th again, and moving into a little bit of a bigger space with another member of ours. So it'll be at Fiorella's, so the old Jack Stack, Rich Charles, however you know it, good chamber member of ours. So we'll be moving over to there for that. I did want to point out on programming, it's sort of in process, so it wasn't in your packet, but we're very proud and very excited about our Leadership Leawood program that kicked off this year. So first year for it, we have 21 participants, so it's been just, the turnout has been great. The people who are interested, it's a wonderful, very diverse, interesting class of folks who are very excited to get more engaged in the city. We've had 3 sessions now. We just had City Day was our most recent, so thanks again to city staff and all of you all for coming out for that. Rave reviews on that from the class, so thank you all for that. This week we get to go to the State House, so we'll spend the day in Topeka. So I think the City Day will continue to be the highlight, but we will be in Topeka that day as well, and culminating in May with the graduation. So the program has gone really well, and we've actually heard from quite a few folks who kind of reached out and said, oh, we hadn't heard that you all were doing this, like put us on the list to apply for next year. So I think lots of good opportunity for growth with the leadership program as well. And then lastly, I just will cover the other side of the house, so the Economic Development Council. So as you know, that is the group that is really working on both bringing in businesses, but also retention of existing businesses. And Diane and I have spoken a bit as well about kind of beefing that role up and seeing what we can do more on retention. We want to partner with you all more as much as we can, continue to grow that EDC relationship as well. You have your list of members. We have changed the structure of the meetings a little bit. So previously we'd been doing kind of a monthly smaller board meeting, and then quarterly we would have a speaker. We're going to do every other month now. So it'll be 6 meetings versus 4, and just have the full council, so that you'll have a speaker. If you're a member of the EDC, if you're an EDC business, you'll have the opportunity to meet a little bit more often than you would have otherwise. But excited about that change as well. Greg Pepis is continuing on in what he says is his final year as chair, along with his son Matt as well. So it's a good group with the EDC. We're excited about the next year of that. So that was that was a lot of information. So happy to answer any questions or comments that you might have.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer. Questions for Ms. Meyer?
Yeah.
Ms. Larson?
Stephanie, do you know how many businesses we have in Leawood? Like,
You know, that's a great question. We have been trying to get to that number. So if there's a way that we can figure that out at the city, we don't know, but be a good question.
I was just wondering what kind of percentage we have of membership in the chamber from the overall business community.
Yeah.
But that's probably changing every single day, that number, but just as kind of just a curious.
Yeah, we're definitely curious. I know Melissa is as well, to get those folks in. I will say overall about 60% of our membership are businesses that are not within the official boundaries of Leawood. So they want to be in our chamber, involved in our chamber, yeah, but actually are not located here. So,
Yeah. Well, Melissa's just doing a terrific job, as are you and the whole chamber staff, and so appreciative of all the changes this year and the new energy. It's just been really great.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilmember Larson. Yes, Ms. Harrison?
Thank you. Stephanie, in terms of the EDC, when I think of the EDC, I think of attracting businesses and retaining businesses. Can you give some examples maybe of the kind of inquiries you all take of businesses that are maybe shopping for a home, and how that process works? A real quick summary, not like, the full, thesis.
Yeah, sure. So the general, I would say probably a couple of times a month. The biggest way we get those leads is through the Kansas City Area Development Council. So we partner with them through you all as well. So a few times, maybe more, maybe once a week, we get kind of a request. So here is the big, broad project X. Here's what they're looking for. And so if we meet that scope, which largely it's office space right now that they're looking for, then we submit sort of our informal application that we want to be considered. So that happens a couple of times a month. And then if they decide to do a site visit, which is not uncommon, we've just done a few in the last week, then we work with KCADC to come in and have them actually see the space and move on from that process. So a lot of those inquests come through them. Occasionally, we do just hear from folks who are looking to move into space. A lot of times, there are businesses that are fairly small and their lease is coming up, and so they want to move into like a shared bank space or something like that. So it's not uncommon for me to get a call about that and say, where do you have available office space in Leawood? We want to move. So it's mostly those sorts of inquiries.
Excellent. Okay, so do you have to, back almost to Mary's question, I would not have thought that a part of your job would be to keep a map of open real estate, which also would be like changing every month, and I learned in this role about Class A and different kinds, but I see that some of your investors are block real estate, for example. That would be a net, obviously you could connect your inquiries to the people who own strip malls and office buildings around the city, but so is that a little bit about how that goes? I mean,
It is, absolutely. So actually, if you go to the EDC website, there is a link on the website that connects you with all of the kind of officially open and available space in Leawood, as up to date as we kind of can be with that commercial property. We try to update it, and we do have an existing list. So it is largely, of course, our EDC investors. We have a few folks who maybe aren't there yet, who should be, but are involved in that world, in the commercial real estate space, so that if I get a request in and I think, I wonder what, I can reach out to them and say, do you have a space available that meets that need? So it works pretty well.
Interesting. Okay, very good. I would not quite have thought that you were also in the connecting business for corporate real estate, so lesson learned. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're happy to partner, with the city in any way on that, and we work with the developers all the time to meet that need too.
Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Other questions? Yes, Ms. Kane.
Just really quickly, we are so grateful for the cooperation and the collaboration that we now have with our chamber, which is so logical. But with the changing of the guard, we have it in spades now. So again, shout out to you once again for changing the whole tone of the relationship and for the better, in my humble opinion. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I
I
appreciate
look
that.
forward to being the liaison.
Yes,
You and me, Mary.
that's what I hear. Absolutely.
I haven't done it in 10 years or something like that, so I'm looking forward to having a turn again. Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you as well. And it is, I can't echo enough. You all have been very warm and welcoming, and I think it's been, I feel like we have a really good, strong relationship, and we would love to grow that in any way. So if we can expand it and do retention, if there's a vision that you're seeing, for example, on 135th Street, that could be something that we can help with, we're available. So just give me a shout. Yeah, we'd love to help.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Well, Ms. Meyer, I would reflect that back upon you as well as we spoke, and I'll talk a little bit about my report with the executive committee. Any ideas that the chamber has or the EDC has relative to positive steps that can be taken on 135th Street, we welcome that. So we really want this to be a proactive activity between the governing body and the EDC as well as the Chamber of Commerce. One question that I had, I'm just curious to hear more about this, is I noticed that in the segment on the EDC, there's a statement that says the Leawood EDC actively engages in public relations efforts that promote Leawood. Can you tell us a little bit, other than, well, I guess Taste of Leawood is actually the chambers and not the EDCs. Can you tell us a little more about what those activities are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a lot of that PR works hand in hand. A lot of it is specifically geared towards commercial real estate or, KCADC businesses or investors to just kind of let them know, here's our available property. We would love to have you. Here's what's going on in Leawood. That's a big part of it. I think we also, through KCADC, have a lot. We're at the table. So whenever there's promotional pieces that are coming out from KCADC, we get to weigh in on that as well. Everything we do, we're kind of co-branding, as we want to make sure that that is out there as well. All the other conversations we have with other economic development entities, or even just kind of business collaborations in general, we're, singing the praises of why folks should come here. Yeah.
Thank you. And then the other question I have is, I know, and forgive me because I'm drawing a blank right now on the name of the publication, but I know that the chamber has a regular publication that comes out maybe quarterly. Can you tell us a little more about that? And in particular, I'm curious as to what your distribution is of that publication.
Great question. So absolutely, that would fall into the public relations piece of it as well. So Leawood Magazine, which we have rebranded and gone to a new publisher as of last year. So you'll have your second issue coming up in the spring, and it's twice a year. So when I came in, it was twice a year, and it was being distributed, I think, to about 10,000. It was kind of unscientific, about 10, 11,000 locations here in Leawood, and we have changed that as well. So every residential and business address in Leawood now, so it's about 34,000 addresses do get that magazine twice a year.
Well, that certainly falls in the category of public relations. So
Absolutely, yes.
we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Meyer? Yes, Dr.
Question.
Castor.
Yes, the retention rate is really impressive. I was curious, for those who don't renew, is that because the business left Leawood, or they just chose that they just not to renew for the next year?
Yeah, good question. So it kind of runs the gamut. So sometimes those businesses most often the business has left Leawood. Occasionally, unfortunately, that business no longer exists. So that happens. There are some mergers on occasion, and there are, I think, smaller businesses on occasion will kind of chamber hop. So there'll be a chamber member somewhere for a few years and then move over to kind of get networking and exposure in a different chamber, and they move around a little bit. So I think that's part of that number as well.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Castor. Anything else for Ms. Meyer? If not, we appreciate your report, and you can step back.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there items that various council members would like to withdraw from the consent agenda? Yes, Deborah.
Item J and item Q.
Item J and item Q. Others? Ms. Larson?
Item E, please.
E. Any others? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda with the exceptions of items E, J, and Q?
Move to approve the remaining items?
Thank you.
Second.
Mr. Sipple. Thank you, Dr. Castor. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda with the exception of items E, J, and Q, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Was there a nay there?
I think it was a late aye.
Oh, okay. I thought I heard Mr. Sipple, after he moved, decided they didn't approve after all. But
That'd be a first in the
All
history
right.
of the consent agenda.
Then we'll ask that the record note that the governing body or the city council unanimously approved the consent agenda with the exceptions of E, J, and Q. And with that, I would call item E, which are the minutes of the Leawood Arts Council.
Thank you, Mayor. I just had a quick question on the first page of the minutes. There's a reference to the public amendments to the public art policy, and I don't recall seeing those. It said they were going to be in front of us for approval in January. Did I miss that?
I believe that's a typo.
Oh,
Ms. Claxton might be on her way, but my understanding is...
She's right back
Oh,
there in the
there's-
door.
oh. My understanding is the committee is continuing to review some proposed changes, and that would be coming before you. It has not come before you yet.
Okay.
The question, Ms. Claxton, was related to, in the minutes, it talked about changes to the art policy coming before the city council in January, and that was the question about that statement.
Okay, great, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't miss that, and I look forward to seeing those amendments. And with that, I would motion to approve.
Before we go to a motion, Ms. Claxton, do you have an estimated time when the proposed changes to the arts policy will be presented to the governing body?
I do not. I think that they are going back out for another review because they had made some improvements back. When I say they, I mean APPI first and then the Arts Council back in September. But since that time, we've made some more edits. So we're waiting for that to come through, and then we'll bring them forward. But I do not have a time frame right now.
Okay, thank you. I believe it was Ms. Larson moved approval of item E. Was that Ms. Phila who seconded? Any discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor of approving item E to accept the minutes of the November 13, 2023 Leawood Arts Council meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and item E is approved. Brings us to item J, resolution approving and authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement between the city and all city management services in an amount not to exceed $105,008.40 pertaining to 2024-2025 school year crossing guard services. I believe, Ms. Phila, you asked more discussion on that?
First of all, I always like to pull this because I know we think that this is one of the most important services that we provide for our schools and our community. But specifically, I was wondering if you have any information you could share with this contract, and are they having success in staffing and personnel? Because it's been a while since they changed vendors, and then we had a tough year where they didn't have the salary to keep the people that they had, and there was a lot of turnover. So I was just curious about continuity, ability to staff, and whether the schools had found that we had the kind of services that they've grown accustomed to.
Fortunately, unlike in the past, the current school year, the company has had good success in retaining staff to man the crossing locations. There have been just very, very few times that we've had to fill in when somebody was missing because of illness or what have you. But all in all, we've had a very good school year in terms of our contract with this company.
Great. All right, well, thanks for that report, and I'll move to approve.
Thank you, and we'll ask that the record reflect that that was Chief Dale Finger who was responding to Ms. Filla's questions. Ms. Filla moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the resolution to authorize the mayor to execute the agreement with All City Management Services, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. And item J, authorizing the mayor to execute the agreement, is approved. That brings us to item Q, staff report, David Lay, Public Works Director. And I think that was Ms. Villa again.
Yes, thanks. And again, this was just kudos. I just wanted to say kudos for the completion of two-way traffic from Mission Road. It was absolutely beautiful as I drove out for the state of the city. So I wanted to say thanks. I know I don't live out that way, but it certainly looks like for what you had to suffer, you got great results from that. So I just wanted to say kudos to you. And I'm going to make one comment in advance of Councilmember Kane's report about the grants that were received. Again, kudos for going out and getting the $454,000, the state matching it for $45,000, and then leaving us the remainder of $45,000 to do that work for safe roads and streets. So kudos for whoever wrestled that one to the ground, because that was pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. That was on that grant. It was John Westbrook who did most of the work. He no longer works here. He moved on to the Corps of Engineers, but it was myself, Brian Scoville, and Todd Thaumann also provided a little bit of input, but it was really John Westbrook who did most of the work. So thanks to him.
Great.
But I'll pass it on.
Move to approve. Did I do that?
Thank you, Ms. Villa. There's a motion to approve. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sipple. I'm sorry, Ms. Kane, you have a comment?
I do, Mr. Lay, sorry. I read that in your report about Fire Station Number 1, that you've been meeting with residential property owners on the east side of the fire station to address their concerns with the view and the current landscaping. So if that's on the, east side, so that's behind our new facility.
That's correct. And so we met, Brian Anderson and myself met with them last week, and we're looking at adding about 10 trees on the east side. It's above the retaining wall to help block the building and block the lights, the parking lot lights.
So these folks are clear that that was going to be a two-story building that we on purpose took down to a one-story building for this very reason.
Correct. There's 10 trees. We're looking at getting a price from our contractor to see what that will cost, and move forward from there.
To put some evergreens there and do whatever we can.
Right. And so we are going to have to remove a few bushes, but we'll take out the bushes and put a tree where those were at.
Right, because I dare say, if it had been a two-story building, it would have been a different conversation.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Lay, before you withdraw there, did those conversations include conversations with the homeowners about addressing some of the issues about the condition of the back end of their properties as they face our fire station?
No,
I
we
have
did
to
not
admit,
go there.
I've spent some time at the fire station lately, and there are definitely some issues and perhaps some code issues with respect to the way their property is being maintained. So it seems like that ought to be a two-way street.
Yeah. We didn't bring that up. We were just focused on our property. So.
Ms. Villa?
I just want to say that the diplomacy of our staff is always commendable, and the amount of landscaping that's already there, I'm surprised that you could find 10 trees to put there, but I guess if you take up some bushes and put in some trees.
It's going to be tight.
It's getting real tight there. I don't know how they're going to grow.
It'll be a jungle in 5 years.
They're going to be competing for the space.
And you are probably more diplomatic than your mayor might be, so. Any other comments or questions, Ms. Kane?
No.
Nope. If not, we have a motion pending. I think we have a second for approval of item Q. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it unanimous, and item Q is unanimously approved. Brings us to item number 9, the mayor's report this evening. I have just three items, I guess, that I wanted to bring to the council and the governing body's attention. First, again, two of those three actually relate to Ms. Meyer. As she indicated, the city of Leawood hosted the first class of Leadership Leawood on February 21st, which, as it happens, there were 21 members of the first class of Leadership Leawood. As she indicated, Leadership Leawood is a program organized by the Leawood Chamber of Commerce to identify young members of the city's business community and to develop their knowledge and skills to prepare them as potential leaders for our community's future. Just as a personal note, I participated in a similar program in Overland Park in 1988. And it was in part my participation in that program that led to my desire to serve in my community and ultimately led me into this chair. So hopefully there are future mayors sitting out amongst those 21 that are out there. Again, I think this is just a great way to develop a pipeline of leadership, not only to elective office, but also amongst our volunteers.
But none too soon. We just got you.
It only,
Mr. Mayor, you have 25 years to go.
I was going to say, it only took 40 years. So, and again, I would commend our staff. They did an absolutely outstanding job of preparing really a fun and informative day for these future leaders. It's hard to describe exactly, but one of the things that I was quite impressed with was the finance department, and kudos to Don Cobby and his team. They somehow managed to make a game out of municipal budgets, which I hope they'll bring to bear when we start talking about the budget here in just a few months. Although in their case, they were rolling dice, and I don't know that it would be prudent for us to roll dice to determine what our budgets are. But again, it was really interesting, and it really caused these young people to engage in this process and understanding a bit about municipal finance, which I think was just amazing. So, Stephen, please pass that on to Mr. Cobby. We'd be grateful. Second item for me was, again, I met with the Leawood Chamber of Commerce Executive Committee on February 27th. And the purpose of the meeting was to discuss ways that the chamber and the city can collaborate to retain the great community of businesses that call Leawood home, and to encourage new businesses to come to Leawood. We had a very frank discussion and agreed that we should develop a regular cadence for these discussions, probably on a quarterly basis. So looking forward to those. And last, as you all know, I delivered my first State of the City address on February 29, in which I described the highlights of 2023 for our city. The theme of that address was principally a recognition that we are privileged to live, work, and play in an incredibly safe environment thanks to the commitment and service of our public safety agencies, in particular the fire department and the police department. And I can't tell you how many people have questioned me, and I've reassured them that I was telling the truth when I told them that we have expertise in cybercrime fighting in a city of 34,000 people. So again, this is probably the third time I've said it, but I just stand in awe and amazement, Chief, that we've got that kind of talent on our police force to recover money all the way from Nigeria. So thanks again.
And I would just like to give you guys, the mayor and the staff, a round of applause, because it was a great State of the City.
Well, that's very kind of you. I really appreciate that. So that concludes, and again, I would give most of those kudos to the staff, because all I had to do was wordsmith all the content that they provided to me. So with that, we come to council member reports, and I believe that Council Member Kane has a report and perhaps a referral for us this evening.
Yes, as Chair of the Public Works Committee, I have a referral of the consultant selection for the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, SS4A. Isn't that catchy? To the Public Works Committee. And as Deborah mentioned, through the expertise of our Public Works Committee, we got a grant for $454,000. We needed a local match of 20%, and lo and behold, the state of Kansas agreed to share in that local match. And so out of the $454 that our city will be receiving, our portion will only be $45,400. So that's quite the coup that the Public Works Committee orchestrated, so thank you for that. So the first step, it says, is to develop a comprehensive safety action plan that identifies the most significant roadway concerns. I don't think that'll be done till mid-2025. But to start that important first step, we're going to need to hire a consultant. Now, I won't be here the first week in April, so maybe Chair Sippel might have to take over unless we move it to the second Wednesday. But yes, that is my referral, please.
Thank you. Mr. Lay, do you care to tell us any more about what you're about to embark upon?
It will be a lot of work over the next year to go through this process to develop this action plan. And so that's why we're going to be looking at shortlisting consultants that have experience developing these for the federal government. Once we have this plan, they'll look at traffic counts, accidents, pedestrian and cycling safety. And then once we have this action plan, we'll be able to start applying for some more federal funds to make some of those improvements that are identified in the plan. But there is quite a bit of information they need to gather, and then also have public meetings to get through the action plan. So it'll be a considerable amount of work for the Public Works Committee over the next year.
So is the end game there, David, construction to streets and infrastructure to improve safety, or what do you anticipate categorically will be the recommendations that come out of this?
So they'll look at certain areas where we have high accident intersections or locations, and they'll try to identify ways to make safety enhancements in those areas. And so they'll develop those types of projects, or not necessarily projects, but identify it to where we can pursue federal funding for that, the physical improvement. And then also looking for instance on 133rd Street, on the north end, the bike trail goes from Metcalf all the way over to High Drive. But then there's a section from High Drive to State Line that doesn't exist, and that could be a portion of it too, to kind of complete the pedestrian connectivity.
Are the school zones in scope to be looked at as well, or are they out?
That can be part of it. So we're looking at updating our traffic calming policy. It's over 20 years old, and so we'll have the consultant go through that policy, and then also work with the Bike Walk Committee in updating the pedestrian and bicycle plan. That'll be all part of this action plan.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lay. Questions for Mr. Lay? Yes, Mr. Sippel.
Mr. Lay, will any of that money be able to be used for the work you and your staff are doing at Brookwood Elementary on 103rd Street?
Probably not. By the time we get through the action plan, it'll be mid-2025, and then that's when we can start applying for the funding. We're hoping to be able to do those improvements in early 2025 or by summer on 103rd Street.
Thank you.
And Mr. Lay, can you just refresh us as to what the improvements are? I know this is off topic, but Mr. Sippel brought it up, and I'm really curious. What are the projects that you're contemplating around Brookwood School there?
So for right now, in the budget, all we have is a mill and overlay of 103rd Street and just restriping. And so the consultant's going to look at whether we can convert 103rd Street from 4 lanes to 3 lanes and then put bike lanes on the outside. What that would do is bring the traffic away from the sidewalks. Most of the sidewalks along that corridor are against the back of curb. So this will provide a little bit of a buffer. And so we're looking at doing that the entire corridor length. So that's why we'll have to hire a traffic engineer for that. And specifically in front of Brookwood, we are looking to add a trail on both the north side and the south side of 103rd between Pawnee and Winonga, and then do new pedestrian signals that have much more lights facing each direction, so it's more obvious when the lights turn red. Currently for westbound, there's only 2 red lights. And so we're looking at trying to double those up.
Excellent. And is that in the budget for 2024?
Those pedestrian improvements in front of Brookwood are not in the budget for 2025. But when we go through the budget, we're going to add those.
So they're further down the road than 2025?
Well, we're going to add it to the budget in 2025, but currently they're not in, well, I should say they're not in the CIP, but we will add $700,000 or so to that project to get that, get those improvements completed. And then we're also looking to submit to CARS for 50% reimbursement on that. So the city's cost will be $350,000 additional.
Great. Thank you. Yes, Ms. Phillip.
And so you'll have a turn lane when you go down to 3, so you have 1 turn lane, and then that also helps to slow the traffic down the way you're constructing it as well? Just because
Potentially, that could help slow traffic.
Thank you, Mr. Lay. I believe there's a motion to refer the matter of grant SS4A to the Public Works Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Sippel. Any
Mayor,
discussion?
I didn't catch the motion if there was one. Was
It
that
was Ms.
Julie?
Kane.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Is there I got the second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of referring grant number SS4A to the Public Works Committee for further work, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the matter is referred to the Public Works Committee unanimously. Takes us to item number 11, the City Administrator's Report. Ms. Stoddard.
No report this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Stoddard. Any committee recommendations? I have none on my agenda. If not, we have no new business, and that takes us to the executive session. What I would do is, for those in the audience, the executive session, under Kansas law, there are certain topics that, in some cases, the governing body is entitled to consider outside the public view, and in other instances, they're required to consider them outside the public view. And so what we will do, assuming that a motion is offered and approved, is we will adjourn into executive session. We'll move to a different room. The governing body will address those issues, and then we'll come back to finish the meeting. For the gentlemen who are in the audience, we have nothing left on our agenda beyond this executive session. So please, unless your teachers think you have to, don't feel like you need to hang around for 30 minutes merely to say, for me to say that meeting's adjourned. So with that, I would entertain a motion for the governing body to recess into executive session to discuss matters relating to security measures protecting this public body, public buildings, and facilities pursuant to KSA Chapter 75, Section 4319, open parent B, close parent, open parent 12, close parent, for a period of 30 minutes. The open meeting will reconvene in the council chamber at 8:12 p.m. We'll make it 8:10 p.m. And I have asked City Administrator Diane Stoddard, Assistant City Administrator Stephen Powell, Assistant City Clerk Stacy Stromberg, Police Chief Dale Finger, and Captain Brad Robbins of the Police Department to please adjourn with us to attend the executive session. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Villa.
Should Patty be included?
Patty may be included. Ms. Bennett may be included. If she, yes, I think she should be included. Thank you for reminding me.
Who is in our executive session? We'd hate to leave her.
Normally, as lawyer, I would expect her to be there, but I'm told the practice has not always been to have the city attorney present in these. So I believe I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning to executive session, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. By unanimous vote, we are adjourned to an executive session, which will convene in the main conference room.
That's an urban.
The governing body will come back into session at 8:12 approximately.
Really cold in here.
And I would note that no action was taken by the governing body during the executive session. Do any members of the governing, oh, sorry. I will say again that no action was taken during the executive session. And I would ask if any members of the governing body have any additional business to bring before the the council this evening. If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villa. Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The meeting is adjourned by unanimous vote. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
You too.
I am heading to the Grand Canyon tomorrow morning.